different levels.
Mild, severe.
Autism. Asperger syndrome. What are they exactly? Well, first, it must be stressed always that the real world is most certainly not based around mythology. If we are not to purely assume, were we ever to meet one, that a Swedish person would have blonde hair or that a French person would be romantic, then there is no excuse whatsoever to assume those with AS and autism are not capable of reaching their full potential and relating to society like everyone else. Far from it. The condition is no different from having dyslexia, dyspraxia, or anything at all, in that it doesn't tell us everything about an individual. And also, it's invisible, at first. The first thing to do is to understand the basic symptoms of Asperger syndrome, that is, what such individuals are sensitive to. I will do my best not to go into too much detail, however, it can't be stressed enough that such a thing is actually a symptom of the condition. To begin with, bright lights, which also includes sunlight. Now, people with AS have numerous levels of sensitivity to almost anything. Some are a lot more sensitive to light than others. No two people are the same. Now, some people with AS wear dark glasses everywhere they go, when they travel, when they walk, in a building, always. And it's not because they want to look amazing, or as some have it, cool. It's because they can't stand light of any kind, be it the sun, or an office light, or even a lamp. Those who are not as sensitive may manage well enough with office lights, but may wish to have one set of these turned off, maybe not. Different people have different levels, and we never know unless we are told of their symptoms, though of course we definitely must not compel them to tell us. But in the end, just like everyone else, we have to pay respect, which isn't difficult at all. Next of all symptoms, loud noises. Those with AS have very acute hearing, and once again, some are a lot more sensitive than others. I imagine some of you are still watching Sesame Street, in which case you'll have met the new character, Julie, who is autistic. Julie covers her ears, for instance, whenever a police siren wails. That's because she's sensitive to loud noises such as that. And this is also the case with people who have AS. But remember, not everyone who is autistic or who has AS will behave in the same way as each other. If they don't want to cover their ears, then they might decide to leave the room they're in until the noise stops. You will also come across people in the street covering their ears as well, because of a loud siren, music coming from an ice cream van, or someone talking through a microphone. Everyone's different. Also, some people will be sensually distracted by the humming of a fridge or a computer, which isn't necessarily loud, but to them it's infuriating, and therefore they cannot concentrate on what they are doing at present, be it relaxing or working. Now, the next symptom is touch. Autistic people are exceptionally sensitive to touch of almost any kind, and so are people who have AS. If you've seen the film Rain Man, you'll have noticed that when someone touches him gently, he screams, and such a thing does happen in the real world. If you know an individual is autistic or has AS, it's advised to avoid touching them. For some people, certainly at first. For others, always. Even if it's just a pat on the shoulder or a rub. This is just how things are. In fact, people with autism or AS can be ever so sensitive that they can't even wear certain designs of clothing, such as wool or maybe cotton, or even silk. Why? Because it doesn't agree with their skin. Some of them might not like touching certain objects, for instance, such as marble or wood, like table wood. Their symptoms will vary, but just like the rest of us, they must be respected. Also, where taste is concerned, some people with AS are highly sensitive to certain foods or drinks, and it definitely isn't efficient to simply walk off and say, we all have different likes, some of us like chips, some don't. Our world is much more broad than that. The same goes for smell. A flower of some sort, for instance, or maybe a drink of any kind, may smell nice to you, but not necessarily to them. It might make them feel nausy or giddy, and if that and everything else covered so far ever makes us wonder why, then the things to do is to pay respect and keep the taste and or smell away or as far away as possible. It is not unusual to dislike certain senses, and even if it seems so to us, we need to keep our opinions to ourselves. That sums up most of the basic symptoms of the condition, and it is fair to conclude that they all coincide with other sensitivities, mainly an individual's spatial awareness, or as some people have it, proprioception, proximity between themselves and other people, plus proximity between themselves and objects of all kinds, proximity between themselves and their environment. This has an effect on their balance, the vestibular. A lot of people with AS and autism are always constantly aware of the space between them and everything around them. This includes other people, a desk, a street light, anything at all. They just can't help but notice the space between everything, and it could be sometimes because they are trying to avoid physical contact with these things due to sensory touch. Or maybe they think there is something on the object that could pollute them, and that isn't unusual. Sometimes they might be afraid that getting into contact with it could lead to them polluting whoever they get into contact with afterwards. Some AS people don't like big spaces, others don't like small spaces. There are even some who don't like either. All sensory issues go together, and there is nothing unusual about an AS or autistic person's reaction to their environment, and therefore it is no excuse to laugh at them, because there is no such thing as normal. It's always best to keep our opinions to ourselves and stop at once to think that maybe that person has AS, simply by studying them, but not staring at them mockingly, because we don't like it when that happens to us. How do you think people such as Stephen Hawking or Warwick Davis would feel if you scoffed at them? What is so abnormal about those individuals? Just like the rest of us, they have feelings, emotions, skills, and abilities. All sensitivities covered today are just the beginning. There is still a great deal to acknowledge about life within Asperger syndrome.
Life Within Asperger Syndrome was presented and produced by Nath Trevett. If you have any questions, visit nathtrevett.com and post your feedback on the Asperger page. Thanks for listening.